Some things that have become clear following the Texans' joint practices with the Miami Dolphins, a couple of uncertainties. Let's talk about the optimism and pessimism currently going on with the Houston Texans. And oh, by the way, Captain Obvious, a.k.a. DeMeco Ryans, lets us know what we already knew. CJ Stroud, QB1. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop. Won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not too. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube.
Welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Although you did not hear me today. We thought we were going to be having a baby. The contractions were where they were supposed to be to go up there. However, we're just in a little pre-labor phase. So I am on watch right now. I can do this show because it's right down the hall. It's not, 25 minutes away. But they've asked me to take some time off at work. So I'm going to do that. But there's no days off when it comes to covering the Texans. If it's your first time in here, appreciate you for checking it out. If you're returning, welcome back. Please subscribe, like, right along. Best place to get the pulse of what's going on with the Houston Texans. And what happened today was the Texans wrapped up joint practices with the Miami Dolphins. And I think there's a few things that stick out the most when it comes to the Texans and the Dolphins. And I think the biggest takeaway for me, and let me know your biggest takeaway, get it in the comments. If it's in the flow, we'll get to it. If it's good, I'll save it for later, and we'll get to that as well. But the biggest takeaway is the expected and DeMeco impact looks good in joint practices. What do I mean by that? When DeMeco Ryans was first hired, there were a couple of things that we talked about as far as, who's going to benefit the most from the arrival of DeMeco Ryans. And there were 3 names that came up that throughout camp and through these joint practices, they've looked like the most optimistic person would hope that they would look in this new scheme, in this defense, and as their careers continue. And it's the 3 second-year guys on defense: Jalen Petrie, Christian Harris, and Derek Stingley. You had the Jalen Petrie play of day one, the pick 6 that ended practice. And Petrie has had a really good camp. You had Derek Stingley today stealing the show. He has that one video that's gone viral where he basically runs the route for the receiver and gets the interception. And Christian Harris through both days is really starting to stick out. Those are 3 guys that we immediately said when DeMeco Ryans was hired, we immediately said those 3 guys are going to benefit the most from DeMeco Ryans. And we've seen it. We've seen it in camp, and we saw it in the joint practices. And one of the most encouraging things that I heard during this whole last couple of days was fellow Alabama Crimson Tide brother, whatever the hell they call themselves, Tua, talking about the Christian Harris interception and what went into it. And I know a lot of you might not have seen this. This is just me being the weirdo that goes in like the lab, as I like to call it on the radio show. But listen to Tua talking about the Christian Harris interception in a conversation they had after the interception was thrown, after he gets done picking his nose.
On the first interception, I think it's what I've done best is looking guys off and no looking throws into holes like that. I talked to Christian Harris, buddy, Alabama,
Wait for this.
and told me that, dude, you did that so much to us last year that like I was like, okay, just trust my drop in this area. And he's like, I'm not falling for it. And that's basically what happened. So it's good play for him. And that too, the mind game of that. It's like, wow, I never thought that you'd figure that out, that piece of the game out. So that kudos to him. And then on that.
And on the last one, he basically just said Jalen Petrie made a good play and he made a bad throw. But how nice is that to hear right there? When you're talking about Christian Harris and he literally goes up to Tua and he says in a joint practice, you sliced our ass up last year, and I remember that you did that, so I knew you were going to do that. And Tua is even sitting there saying that it was a good play. That's encouraging, man. Like that is something that is extremely encouraging when you talk about a guy. Like that's beyond impressive to me when it comes to that. So you have the three guys that you feel good about. We'll get to the stuff that maybe we don't feel as good about in a second. But when I hear that, I just think that's fantastic. And the other thing about Christian Harris that I think we don't talk about enough, and some people might not even be aware of, this is his 5th year of playing linebacker. And I know sometimes you like become natural, and there's guys who have position changes and whatnot, but this is only his 5th year of playing linebacker in football. He was a DB. He was like an H-back / running back in high school. He actually went to high school pretty much on the LSU campus, ended up leaving Baton Rouge to go to Alabama, and he was basically an athlete. He was listed as an athlete. It was a DB freak show. You should see his running back highlights. They're actually pretty nuts. But when he went to Alabama, Nick Saban said, all right, I'm going to make you a linebacker. And not only am I going to make you a linebacker, you're going to start right off the top. So his first 3 years of playing linebacker were starting for Alabama and starting for effing Nick Saban with all the recruits they have. Last year was his 4th year. He was kind of a little bit nicked up, but he hasn't even been playing linebacker for half a decade. So I don't want to say like he's still learning the position, and he's like, I mean, he's pretty polished. And I mean, I think when you're a DB, obviously you know the instincts and all that. You need similar instincts, different but similar. But he's probably learning some stuff, and quite frankly, like being able to pick the brain of DeMeco Ryans and the DeMeco impact that we anticipated, it's big, and it's especially big for a guy who's only in his 5th year at the position. I think that's something to kind of make note of. And when you see it, just kind of playing out, you need to check it out. I'm laughing at a comment because I'm trying to keep this out. What did I do? What did I do to Figgy and John? I don't even know. Y'all gotta let me know. I have no idea. I was in the hospital with wifey. I have no idea what they said. They were probably roasting though. But I have no idea what you're talking about, but I'm laughing because I already know. Y'all know how we roast each other. 10 to 2 in the Loop, Central Sports Radio 610 Odyssey app, #1 source for radio entertainment when it comes to the Texans and when it comes to Houston sports. But yeah, those are the 3 things with the Texans that I think the expected has looked good. So that's a good thing. Let's get to the bad news, though. And I don't know, are y'all good news or bad news first? Like, what are y'all? Put it in the comments. Because some people want the bad news first. Some people want the good news first. We started with the good news. Are y'all like when someone says, do you want the good news or bad news first? What do you go with? Do you say good or bad? I'm typically, let's get the bad news out of the way. Because typically when someone says good news, bad news, typically it's not like it's that unequal. Like they're not going to tell you something like real bad. But I'm typically let's get the bad out of the way. But we started with the good. So let's get to the bad news, though. A lot of bad folks. Yeah, a lot of bad. I think bad is running circles right now. So I can see y'all on the comments there. So concern that has emerged up to this point. The interior of the offensive line. And it's been a theme. I mean, it's been a theme, and it's been a concern around here for a long time. And the frustrating thing about it is that it doesn't matter how much they seem to invest. Now, again, this is preseason, this is practice, but we'll hear from DeMeco Ryans. I'll let you decide how, like, if you want to read between the lines, how you think DeMeco's feeling about that. But it doesn't matter how much they invest in it. It just seems like they don't get the return on investment. And there's a lot of problems that the Texans can have. Some of them are understandable. This interior offensive line not being good this year I think it would be, at what point, if it is bad, does Nick Caserio, and look, people have weak spots. There's certain coaches who can't evaluate receivers, or certain coaches who can't evaluate certain things, certain scouting departments. But let's say this interior offensive line, and maybe the games happen and it's not as big of a deal as it is right now. Maybe there's going to be like more effort to not put them on an island. Maybe they're going to, Bobby Slowick's going to be able to mask it. Hell, maybe they just ball out. But if this interior offensive line is bad, then I think Nick Caserio needs to evaluate the way they evaluate interior offensive linemen. Because there's been limited resources with the Texans in a lot of areas. But you brought back Justin Britt for a second year. Don't know why. He sucked. You brought in AJ Cann last year to play guard. You drafted Kenyon Green in the first round. Then you traded for Shaq Mason. You made Shaq Mason one of the higher paid guards in the NFL without even seeing him play and seeing him in this system. And you traded up for Juice Scruggs in the second round. So if this interior offensive line is bad, then I think Nick Caserio and his scouting department are just going to have to evaluate things. Now, again, we're basing this on preseason, and we're basing this on, couple of practices, close to 16, 17, whatever practices. But it can't happen. And let's listen to DeMeco Ryans. And I want you to tell me if this sounds like a coach that is confident in things. Because we've seen struggles. Like we've seen when CJ struggles, you hear DeMeco Ryans, and DeMeco Ryans basically says he's going to be fine. He's a rookie. He's going to be all right. And he's done that when he's talked about, the defense and anything else. Let's hear DeMeco Ryans talking about this offensive line, and you tell me if this sounds like a guy that is concerned or if he just thinks this is part of the process of getting better.
Our offensive line is still working through things. They still have things to improve on, not only the offensive line, just as a team. I think each position, not to single out one group, each position has something to improve upon. And that's what training camp is all about. And guys are heading in the right direction. You do see guys getting better each day, and that'll continue to be a process all throughout the year.
All right. So they're still working through things. Is that like a reference to injuries or what? What about the interior specifically? Here's DeMeco Ryans talking about that.
I think interior pressure is something that really stops up all offenses, right? You have to be solid in the middle of your offense, right? You want to be solid in the middle of your defense. You want to be able to threaten the pocket as quickly as possible. So there's a competition right there. Who's going to stand up and make the play? And we have to be, really good in the middle of our offense as a center, the guard positions, back stepping up, and protection as well. Guys have to be solid there.
Was that a question? How important is the interior offensive line? Was that one of those media questions where it's like, how important is it to block for your quarterback? How important is it to turn the ball over? Come on, man. But yeah, the first one is really the one where I kind of raised the eyebrows as they sent the audio out today, and I heard this.
Our offensive line is still working through things. They still have things to improve on, not only the offensive line, just as a team. I think each position, to single out one group, each position has something
that group
to improve upon. And that's
single out that damn group. Don't be scared.
What training camp is all about. And guys are heading in the right direction. You do see guys getting better each day, and that'll continue to be a process all throughout the year.
It is the Locker Room, #1 source for digital content. Subscribe, like, ride along. Appreciate everyone for coming through live streams at 9. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610. That, to me, sounds like someone who's a little bit concerned about the offensive line. To me. And quite frankly, I don't know a ton about DeMeco Ryans. Like, I know a lot, but I know he's not blind. So if he's watching the same practices that my dumbass is watching, then yeah, I would be a little bit concerned about the interior of this offensive line. And why would you not be? Why would you not be? It's a big concern. And what makes it even more concerning is that you invested as much as you did in the offensive line. That's what the problem is. That's what the problem is. And I use a philosophy here. And we'll get into like some other questions, but they're not as glaring as the offensive line. I have a house theory when I talk about like team building and stuff. I'm not some sort of like Jack Easterby fraud ass POS team building guy, but I'm talking about team building when it comes to like having to basically rebuild a football team. I look at it like if you buy a house, like let's say you buy a house and the house needs a lot of work, but you're on a limited budget. Like you don't have Sean Pendergast or John Lopez money. Like you're going to have to start somewhere, and then a year or so down the line, then you go to the next thing because of assets, money, assets, draft picks, assets, cap space. Like it's not realistic to expect the Texans to have fixed all their problems the last year or two. It's not realistic because you can't use the assets everywhere. They drafted CJ Stroud and Will Anderson in the first round. They traded a 1, they traded a 2. So expecting them to get an elite wide receiver or use an asset on an elite wide receiver, not realistic. Tight end depth. Maybe you wanted them to draft a tight end. That went out the wayside whenever they didn't have that second round pick and they couldn't, add even more tight end depth. They ended up with Dalton Schultz. But when you make Laramie Tunsil the highest paid offensive lineman of all time, you make Titus Howard one of the highest paid right tackles. You trade for Shaq Mason. You use a second round pick on Juice Scruggs. And you used a first round pick on Kenyon Green. That's just not good return on investment. That's not like the wide receiver thing where you might like Tank Dell, but you might want to go get a #1 wide receiver, like another guy to put with him. Or you might need to figure out, invest heavily at wherever. Like you invested too much in that interior of the offensive line. And again, it is preseason. I see my man Keith brings it up. It is preseason. There's no doubt. But it's alarming. And I think it's only fair that if I'm going to sit here and get freaking excited about, if I'm going to get freaking excited about the, Stingley, Petrie, Christian Harris, Tank Dell. When I'm talking about the offensive line, I don't think it's too fair to sit there and say it's only preseason, It's kind of hypocritical. So we will see what's going on. Birdie says it's CJ Stroud's fault he can't read the blitz. I don't even know if it's a blitz, my friend. I think it's just man-to-man getting your ass whooped most of the time. They're blitzing him a lot. We'll see if CJ can read the blitz. I thought he read it pretty fine in the preseason game, running for his life. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Briscoe's calling for the timeout on the CJ thing. Nah, that's his take. I won't put him in timeout. I'm in a good mood tonight. So wide receiver depth is another thing that I wanted to bring up. By the way, just got some good news. I'm going to bring Cody Stouffer in. Cody Stouffer had his boots on the ground. I'm going to bring Stouffer in. Shout out to Houston Football. If you're not subscribed to that, it's worth it. I would probably have said that no matter what, but in all honesty, it's the most in-depth. I think it's more in-depth than 99% of the guys on the beat. He's there every day now. Cody's doing his own thing. Salute to him for deciding to do that and go do his thing. He's going to join me probably in like 10 minutes or something like that. So we'll get Stutz in this mug. Wide receiver depth is interesting because there's some intrigue, but I think Cody actually said it really well today in his observations. Like Noah Brown disappears some days and then he's out there other days. That's what you expect, right? Like Noah Brown is not a guy who should be one of your two best receivers. He's a guy who can make plays. He's a guy who's going to do dirty work. He's a guy who might be on the field in the most important times because he takes pride in blocking. But as far as like consistency in the pass game, you're not going to get that. Tank Dell looks like he might be your most complete receiver. We don't know yet. Mechie, I don't have too high expectations for Mechie. He can go every once in a while, but like as far as me feeling like John Mechie can be like one of your top 3 best receivers if you have a really good receiver room, I'm not there yet. I like Mechie. He's a motivational guy. Loved getting to interview him during camp. Not there yet. Robert Woods, love Robert Woods, but Robert Woods is an older guy at this point. Don't know what to expect. So wide receiver depth could be a question. Now, the guy that we know the best and the guy that we've talked about the most has been Nico Collins. And my theory on Nico Collins has always been, I think he can be a good deep play threat, kind of a one-trick pony. He'll show you some flashes, but a lot of times he has trouble getting off the line of scrimmage. He works his ass off. So, and let's be honest, he was a day 2 pick. So I think Nico is your best deep threat. I think Nico could potentially be one of your best red zone threats. I think Nico is going to make plays, but if you have hopes that, this wide receiver group is going to be really, really good and Nico is going to be one of your top 2 receivers, I disagree. I think if Nico's one of your top 2 receivers, you probably have a bottom 3rd wide receiver room in the league. That's just me. Let's hear what the head coach has to say about him, though, because Nico did have a hell of a day today. Here's DeMeco Ryans talking about Nico Collins.
Yeah, Nico, throughout camp, he's shown that he's a big play threat. Deep passes down the field. He's made a lot of big-time plays in practice, and we're expecting him to do the same thing when it comes to the games.
And that's what he is. I mean, I think that is a perfect summary of Nico's game. I think he is a significant deep play threat that can make plays down the field. I 100% agree with that. But as far as like the intermediate stuff, we'll see if he can do that consistent. We'll see if he can do that consistently. But DeMeco, I think he put that very nicely with talking about Nico Collins. Now, we've talked about the interior of the O-line as we continue to look at perhaps the bad news. Is there enough tight end depth is a question that maybe needs to be asked now too. Now, I personally don't feel bad about the tight end depth. I think Quintariano, I might overrate Quintariano, quite frankly, at this point. The thing that is keeping me on the Quintariano train, and maybe this will, I'll allow this to make sense for you. The thing about Quintariano that makes me kind of believe in him is that last year, despite the fact he was out for so long for the start of his rookie season, the dude was ready to play. Like, he was immediately ready to play when he got on the field. And I mean, this is a guy who was drafted on Saturday of the draft. He was looked at to be, just a blocker. I think he immediately scored a touchdown in his first game. He was a way better receiver than you thought, and he's a pretty good blocker. And he looks like he's gotten a little bit bigger. So maybe the fact that I didn't expect anything from him last year, and he kind of surprised me and just kind of looked like he belonged on the field, maybe that has me kind of overrating Quintariano. I think it's a possibility. I mean, I'm not always going to be right. You guys know that. If you listen to my dumbass talk, about the Texans 6 hours a day or however often I do it, I'm not always going to be right. And, if you're watching Quintariano since he's come back, nothing's really sticking out. It's not bad, but nothing's really sticking out. So I could be guilty, admittedly, of maybe thinking that there's going to be more from him than there might be. But in this offense, you're probably going to need tight ends to help out. I do think Andrew Beck is basically a tight end. You could call it 21 or 12 personnel, 2 backs, 1 tight end, or 1 back, 2 tight ends when he's out there, because he's kind of a fullback / tight end. But even then, he's not like an overwhelming threat. And then you got a couple of guys that are just kind of battling it out. So I would be I would be a little bit concerned there. A little bit. Not a ton. I like TQ. Seems like there's some TQ love. He's a very good blocker. That's kind of what his thing is. And you do have Dalton Schultz, who will be fine. So on offense, let's hear DeMeco Ryans real quick. Let's hear DeMeco Ryans talk about what the plans are, or what he thought of practice this week, and then he's going to let you know who your starting quarterback is. We already knew this, though, but who your starting quarterback will be. Here's DeMeco.
Yeah, I thought these past 2 days were very productive. I think yesterday was good, and we came back today and had another really good day of practice, and it went really well to me. Got really good looks offensively, defensively, against different schemes, different players, and we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish out of it.
You played them on the actual game. What's the thinking about CJ Stroud and other starters on offense and defense? Do you plan to play CJ much more first team offense?
With our game this week, we'll play all our players will play. All our players will see time in the game, and that's how we'll go about it. CJ will go out first, again, as he did last week, and we'll judge the game as it goes along.
So there you go. So I anticipate maybe a CJ Stroud starting against Baltimore type of announcement. I could anticipate that coming sometime next week. But yeah, he let you know. The practice, if they were scoring it, I'd say it'd be 1-1, Texans day 1, Dolphins day 2. We'll talk to Cody Stouffer. He has a good view of what was going on there. So we'll see how that all unfolds, but we'll figure that out. Do I think that Schultz is better than Owen Daniels? No. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that at this point. Owen was pretty effing good. Schultz is a good receiver. I think Owen was a little bit better blocking. But I think Schultz is going to be very, very important for CJ Stroud. I would not be surprised at all to see Dalton Schultz really do a lot of things in this preseason game on Saturday. I think that's probably in CJ's best interest, is to start to lean on the tight end a little bit, especially if the interior of the offensive line isn't going to get the job done. I think leaning on the tight end would be probably in his best interest, and I think Dalton Schultz is more than capable of taking CJ to the promised land there, for sure. Anything else that sticks out, really? Not really. I don't see anything outside of the ballers that we thought would be ballers coming through, and the interior of the offensive line being kind of a problem. Some Texans fan, Johnny Landry, have you gotten to talk to Chris Strausser at practice? No. I mean, I don't know if you're being funny or not. I'm out of the offensive line coach business. I've heard all for 3 years now, ever since dopey Mike Devlin left. I've heard about these offensive line coaches and how great they're going to be, and Warhop and James Campen and all these guys, and the offensive line hasn't performed at the caliber that it's been hyped up. So I had no interest. Last Saturday, I think it was either Saturday or Sunday, the assistant coaches were available, and Chris Strausser, Stutz, who will join us in a sec, he went over and talked to Strausser, and then he told me that he had the audio. I said, I don't need that. I don't need that crap. For what? I don't want to talk to an offensive line coach. For what? What am I going to ask him about? So no, I haven't really talked to him. I talked to Gerard. I talked to Slowick. I talked to Frank. I've asked DeMeco a couple of questions. Got to interview Matt Burke, but no, I didn't talk to Chris Strausser at all. I have no interest in talking offensive line with Chris Strausser. Sorry. Jacob asks, "Sup, Jake?" He says, I should say, he's concerned about safety, or really good with Eric Murray behind JP. Eric Murray is having a pretty decent camp. I think that the thing about Eric Murray, so if you went to, and you can tell I'm hungry right now, but if you went to, I don't know, name your favorite hole in the wall Mexican restaurant in Houston, or like a normal Mexican restaurant where, it's no more than $15 a plate. Like, name that spot wherever it is. I actually like seeing people's favorite Mexican food spots. Like, if you went to that place and they charged you El Tiempo prices, you would immediately think that place was trash, because you would say, okay, yeah, it's a decent restaurant, but now all of a sudden, I'm paying El Tiempo prices. That's insane. Taco Bell. I'm going there for dinner tonight. Spoiler alert, I'm going to Taco Bell tonight. I am, actually. I'm on that Prego diet. I'm going to Taco Bell after this. I'm glad you said that. You got my mouth freaking watering, prime time. But if you went, and I'm shout out to everyone for these Mexican spots. Teo Tejecuan is the best place in town. But if you started paying El Tiempo prices, you'd be like, man, this place is trash. This is ridiculous. I think that's what happened with Eric Murray. Like, Eric Murray was not worth what Bill O'Brien and the POS person of service, Jack Easterby, that's not a good deal for him. But as a reserve safety, as a guy who, and when you saw him stop the run on third down, and I like MJ Stewart too. I think he's a pretty good ad. Luis says, you don't care about the O-line, but you asked the Dolphin coach that F. Mary killed. Yeah. Which one do you think is better? You want to talk to the O-line? F, Mary, kill with Mike McDaniel? You know how many people use that? Come on. Yes. I actually value entertainment. You kidding me? Yeah. Big time. Big time. Taco Bell don't serve no dog food. You are crazy, man. DQ tacos are underrated. That cat knows. DQ tacos are underrated. It's a good throw-in, man. DQ tacos. They're better than Jack in the Box. Jack in the Box have fallen off. Those used to be the thing, man. Those used to be the thing. Absolutely, no doubt. Nah, Anthony, I already got it planned. It won't game 40 on me. I'm actually going on a diet when the baby gets here. I was on a nice little kick, but I ended up I had to get something removed from my back. Still got the hole, so I haven't been able to move as much. So I'm in that. I know all about the Jack in the Box tacos in the car. That's a guarantee. Sometimes you get 2 of those for the road, right there. The no sleep diet, man. That's me, man. I'm all about that inconsistent sleep. I'm all about that. 100%. The hole in the back. Nah, I'm not going to show it. It's like right here. So the doctor, my doctor who actually took it out, it was like pressed up against my rib and my back. And I did it. I actually didn't miss any time. I got it done at 3, like 2 Mondays ago. But it was like this big, like almost like a ball, but it was like an oyster, like just stuck. So he had to like take it out. But he's actually so he knows Vandermeer and he knows J. Joe. And J. Joe and him play ping pong together. And then I think his son accidentally broke Vandermeer's arm. So there's that. But it's gone now. It's like a life-changing thing for me. Now she ain't gonna want to eat everything. She want me drinking, maybe. Hadn't been able to have any of that rosé, but nah, she's gonna be on that. She's been eating, pregnant. Once she gets that done, man, that's that. Let's bring in Cody Stutes. Someone just asked me, and it might have been your burner account. Did you talk to offensive lineman Chris Strausser?
The O-line coach? What do you want to know? Had a nice long conversation about it.
Someone asked, and I said I didn't really know.
Had a nice long conversation with him on Saturday.
Yeah, good for you. How'd that go?
It's good. It's good. It was real well. Real well. Got some good insight. Also, she can't start drinking right after she has the baby. And then, don't you can't?
You're not a
doctor,
nurse? Buddy. You're not a doctor, buddy. I don't. Yeah, you have to nurse. I don't know what the whole thing is, man. I don't know how this whole stuff works. I've lost track of the science. Let's talk about the practice today. Mike, I was talking to the audience. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Cody Stutes here. Houston football. It is the locker room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. No offense, Cody. Like, subscribe, right along. When you leave this video, be sure to like. But I'll reset what I was saying earlier today, because I've kind of come to the conclusion that the theme of this Dolphins 2-day practice was, I think it confirmed the things that, and I think it's not just these 2 practices, but it's like the whole camp up to this point. It confirmed the things that you could be the most realistically optimistic about when DeMeco was hired. Like the DeMeco impact, like the first thing you said was, well, damn, Derek Stingley's going to benefit from this system. Oh, Jalen Petry's going to benefit from this system. Oh, Christian Harris, man. And you hear all this Fred Warner crap. And over the course of these 2 days, day 1, you had Petry in practice with the pick 6, and he looked good. Today, Derek Stingley was the star on defense. He did his thing. There's that rep where he ran the route for the receiver going around. And Christian Harris, who, by the way, is playing linebacker for the 5th year of his life, he was in the mix, and he probably was the most consistent from beginning to end, and he was mouthy, and he wanted all the smoke, and he had a pick 6 too. So for me, that's the good news. I started with the good news. The good news is like the DeMeco impact, the realistic optimism, not blind optimism. It's kind of been on display, and I think it was very much on display the last couple of days.
Yeah, everything that you felt like DeMeco could immediately put his hands on, and he was extremely qualified to put his hands on, has been a thumbs up to me. I mean, you think about Will Anderson coming in and looking as good as he has right away. Some of the resurgence with the other defensive linemen who've been around for a couple of years and some of the play that you've seen from them so far. Obviously, you talked about the linebackers. That's been incredible. The defense overall, like the floor is a lot higher, not only because they brought in talent and they're a little bit deeper than they have been the past couple of years, but because you believe in what DeMeco is doing with the defense. But there's only a certain amount of things that you can kind of give the DeMeco Ryans effect to, you know, the DeMeco Ryans bump, you know, it's primarily defensive centric and then just really mentality and approach centric as well. So the stuff that is an issue on the offense or the offensive line or this and that, like you can't inherently put that as a, you know, something that DeMeco Ryans is going to be able to inherently affect a whole bunch right away. Like he has the 3 different layers of this defense to this point.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the good news. The bad news for me, and I think even the way that DeMeco kind of talked about it, the interior O-line, dude. I don't know. I mean, I could say it's just preseason, but then why the hell would I be praising these other guys if I'm going to say it about the interior of the offensive line? Like it's just the way that he started the comment about it.
Our offensive line is still working through things. They still have things to improve on.
Yeah, and then he tries to make it like a team thing, but I mean, it's maybe you can mask it better, or maybe they just flip some sort of switch, but that's concerning for obvious reasons, but it's concerning because it's not something that you didn't invest in. It's not like the like trying to find a wide receiver 1 or trying to find tight end depth, or it comes down to evaluation, and there's multiple layers to it. Like you can start at Kenyon Green and say you drafted him in the 1st round. You didn't take, you know, if you wanted to get an interior offensive lineman, maybe you could have taken Linderbaum and figured something out, which, by the way, God, him in this system, I would love to see that. It goes to Shaq Mason. Like you not only traded for him, you then like gave him a contract in a system that he's never played. And I don't know how bad Shaq Mason looks. And then you traded up for Juice Scruggs. So I don't want to say this can't happen, but if it does happen, then I think Nick Caserio needs to evaluate the way that they evaluate offensive linemen. Everyone has blind spots. If we have to deal, if the interior of the offensive line in the regular season looks the way that it's looked right now, then they need to evaluate the way they evaluate offensive linemen. I think that's fair.
When the worst pick you've made in the past 2 drafts is one of your 1st-round picks, that's not good. I mean, it feels like the Caserio's blown the Kenyon Green pick. When you think about the multitude of other offensive linemen that played well, and he himself said they had an opportunity to trade back, because if Kenyon Green was playing this way and he was the 25th pick, you'd still be disappointed. But if you'd had 2 other mid-round picks to kind of play around with or move around with or something like that, you'd feel a little bit better. But it feels like he's blown the Kenyon Green pick. Now, Scruggs, to his credit, I thought he'd looked pretty good in camp. Today was the first day where it felt like Scruggs was kind of getting a welcome to the NFL moment.
He needs that.
He needs that at the center spot. And then Mason, from a running perspective, from a running the football perspective, Mason and even at times Kenyon Green are solid, but the pass blocking's not good. And you think about where CJ Stroud is ever dealt with pressure. I mean, how many times at Ohio State did anybody get the CJ Stroud? It wasn't very often. And yes, he showcased some mobility. and it's been nice. But you can't run your entire offense based on rollouts and keep an extra guy in to always block because the interior offensive line's not any good. Like, that's just not a realistic way to run your offense. And I wouldn't put it past Kenyon Green losing his spot at some point in this season. I wouldn't put it past.
To who?
I don't think that guy's on the roster.
Okay.
Because I don't.
So you're not saying Patterson, or you're not saying.
Well, Patterson's practiced like 3 times, so we can stop talking about Jared Patterson.
Okay,
like,
so you're not like, yeah,
like
I just don't know who the threat is.
It's not Michael Dieter, and we know they're not gonna do the screwy Bill O'Brien thing where they play Titus Howard at guard. That's not gonna happen. So
they did it last year.
Yeah, it's hopefully they don't do it again.
Is Charlie Heck gonna play ever?
Charlie Heck's not even in the workout phase of the pup.
Nah, and he's walking like Bill Walton. I mean,
yeah,
he looks like he needs some cannabis.
Yeah, the tough part about Kenyon Green is history's not on his side. Typically, when you're bad as a rookie guard, you stay bad. Like that's just the way it's worked in the NFL the past couple of years, and so history's not on his side for a bounce back, and you don't have a lot of options. Michael Dieter is not a guy that you're going to see, be a significant upgrade over Kenyon Green. Here's the problem. I feel like Dieter, because they did the swapping around at left guard in the first joint practice, and Dieter was in there for some successful pass reps, and Green was in there for some successful rushing reps. And so Dieter seems to maybe pass block better than Green, but it doesn't seem like he can run block as good as Kenyon Green. And then it's the inverse for when Kenyon Green's in there. We saw it in the preseason game. He got his defensive lineman that he was supposed to block, and he got it in there like almost every other offensive lineman wants to, and then he kept getting pushed back like he was a grocery cart at the Walmart.
Well, those don't push very well, though. Walmart carts. Let's be real. You should have said Target.
Target's
carts glide. Those are the damn Bentleys of carts. Walmart's that wheel ain't working.
Good point.
Moving. You want your offensive lineman to be pushed back like a Walmart cart.
I was at HEB the other night, like about 15 minutes before they closed. I saw a guy working on the carts. Like that's like adjusting the wheels and stuff like that. I'd never seen that before. Fun fact for you.
What else stuck out to you today? Anything like the most optimism? Is there anything that we haven't touched on? We've touched on Stingley. We've touched on Petrie. We've touched on Christian Harris. Anything else encouraging for the folks?
Robert Woods gets open. Like he gets open. Sometimes Stroud's moving around so he can't hit him right away. Like he had a pass to Woods yesterday that Woods was open and he had that window where you needed to get him the ball, but Stroud had to kind of maneuver around in the pocket by the time he got the ball to Woods, the defender was in there to break it up. But Robert Woods dominated all his 1-on-1 and 7-on-7 reps.
He's
today.
smooth, man. I know people are talking about he's old and all. He is. But he played 17 games last year. If you get what Tennessee got from him last year, you probably shouldn't be too upset if you're getting around 60 catches and whatever. And he played 5 games with Malik Willis or whatever, however many games that was, and then one with Dobbs. So
I heard a fantasy football guy say, if Robert Woods is this year's version of Zay Jones, you'd be over the moon with it. And I was like, well, I don't remember Zay Jones being that good last year. And then I went and looked, and Zay Jones was a veteran that Jacksonville brought over to help their young quarterback. He wasn't a rookie. It was his second year, but Zay Jones was a guy that you could trust. He runs the right routes. He gets open. He's precise in the way that he runs the routes. Zay Jones had 823 yards and 5 touchdowns on 82 catches. Like, I'd sign up for 800 yards and 5 touchdowns from Robert Woods right now.
That's a lot.
I'd sign up for that right now.
I guess Travis says Clinton show. You can hear them right after me on Sports Radio 610. They hate Woods. They called him Rex Burkhead of 2023. I don't even really understand the similarity between that, to be honest with you. A running back, when he's on the field, he's automatically like halting the progress of the guys behind him. I think Robert Woods is a good resource. I think that he has tangible knowledge of this system. I think people have talked about it. When you watch him, he is like a true dump off kind of intermediate type of receiver in the slot, outside the slot, etc. I think he still has a little bit of ball left. I think at his best, Robert Woods was a number 1 or number 2, like a 1A, 1B, maybe 2 receiver, because he's played with some good guys. Rex Burkhead at his best was a 3rd string running back. And that's what was frustrating, is a guy who at his best was a 3rd string running back was all of a sudden being treated like a starter and then a backup last year after a torn ACL and his father time caught up. So, yeah, I don't subscribe to Robert Woods being Rex Burkhead. I actually think mentioning those 2 guys in the same sense, just my opinion, I think it's a little bit disrespectful.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense
based on anything that I've seen.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. And I've been at every single practice. I don't see it. I don't see the comparison there.
But I mean, I respect their opinion. I don't agree with that. I don't see the similarities at all. I don't think he's preventing anyone from doing what you want him to do at receiver.
No, he's a guy you want on the field right now, because you don't get a lot of you don't get consistency out of all the other spots, with the exception of Tank Dell, who's been a monster for better part of a week now. Dylan Horton had some nice reps in the past couple of days. It took him a while to get healthy after he got banged up. But
did DeMeco get asked about him? I think he's been asked about him like 8 times when he wasn't doing anything. Oh, he didn't?
He did not.
Oh, wow.
He did not. To'o did more of the stuff that Henry To'o's come to do, which is just he beats defenders to the spots that they're going to and then makes plays. Corey Littleton made the first play where I can remember, oh, hey, Corey Littleton's making a play. That's another one of those veteran linebackers that they signed in free agency, Denzel Perryman and Littleton. And actually, if I remember correctly, I feel like Littleton got like a couple extra thousand more than Perryman.
So where can Littleton line up though? He's not weak. I mean, can he play strong and weak? Like, does he have versatility?
He's a fill-in guy for whoever comes off the field between Harris.
Yeah. I just don't know if they think he can play strong and weak, and because the Kirksey thing, it's over, right? Like, there's going to be like an injury settlement or something. Is that where we're heading towards? DeMeco said he might come back, and I was like, for what? With how athletic these linebackers are, like what is his role? Like, it's interesting, like some thumper.
It's interesting because they had Kirksey on the field with the ones for the first couple of days, and then he hadn't practiced since then because he's been hurt.
Yes.
So,
but you got to admit, like, even then, the visual of these linebackers is much more athletic with Kirksey, not with the ones. Like, it is light years more athletic with him, not with the ones.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean the first team linebacker crew of Harris, Perryman, and To'o is, I mean, they are flying all over the place. And then you got Cashman and Littleton as backups, and I guess they're going to keep probably one more after that. Maybe Hanson.
Bob.
Yeah, maybe him. But yeah, the linebacking group, the first 4 guys, I'm not worried about. Not worried about the first 4 guys. And if you
that's where you can always like find guys too, like those, like linebacker, tight end, maybe O-line. That's always where you feel like maybe you can find like some guys that contribute to
they need some tight ends, man.
Okay, so let's get into that. The Quitoriano, are you just not seeing it or what? I mean, I told the listeners and the viewers, I should say, maybe I'm a little bit just optimistic about Quitoriano because I saw his ass be ready to go when the games actually started last year, and maybe I'm kind of blinded by that. But
he's invisible during practice. It's like he has the cloak of invisibility. I don't ever see him make a play on the field, anything.
What if he's just one of those dudes that brings the rice out when it's game time?
I mean, if that's the case, so be it. But they still need a 3rd or a 4th tight end too. I mean, is the tight end room of Schultz, Quitoriano's potential, and Mason Schreck good enough? it's not good enough for me. The
Yeah.
49ers kept 4 tight ends in that first roster last year. So I don't know. I also wonder too if there's probably, I got to imagine there's 3 or 4 guys Casario's got on his radar that he feels pretty good about. If they get cut, he could bring them in too.
Yeah, I mean, like, but as far as finding like elite depth, you kind of lost that when you traded the second. Like there was not, you weren't going to get like the slide. So I don't really fault them from not having the depth that they might like at tight end. I don't think it's like the same as the interior, but I'm not out on the tight end depth yet.
You couldn't fix everything. You needed everything. You didn't have the resources to fix everything. Like there was going to be something that suffered. I mean, it was a nice bonus to end up with Dalton Schultz. You didn't expect to be able to end up with him, but once you use some of the once you use some of the capital to move up, you were going to miss out on an opportunity to improve somewhere. And even then, if you had a rookie tight end in here, that's one of the hardest positions along with cornerback to make the transition. So it's, even if you had a rookie tight end that you felt good about, that you had invested in, it's hard to bet on that guy and it's hard to count on that guy.
All right. So Carlton, by popular demand, he wants the insight with your conversation with the O-line coach. So I'll just sit back and you tell me what was so great about your conversation with the O-line coach.
So I got him to slip up. All these coaches try to do the day-by-day thing and they don't want to look ahead and so on and so forth. And I was like, hey, I know it's a day-by-day process, but the thought that maybe you can have these 5 offensive linemen because the tackles and Shaq are locked up and the other 2 spots are young guys, that's pretty exciting. He's like, yeah, we really like the potential of, a few years down the road, and these guys have played together for a couple of years. And then he kind of stopped and he's like, but we're just worried about one day at a time. So I thought that was interesting. And then DeMeco Ryans, if you remember the clip from a couple of weeks ago, he was telling Henry To'o, he's like, hey, we got to get you those Fred Warner cut-ups. And so I asked Strasser, I go, what cut-ups do you send the guys out to? Like, do you send Quentin Nelson cut-ups out? Because this guy coached Quentin Nelson. Many people believe him to be the best guard in football. And so he's like, actually, I send out.
He sucked before he got him, right?
Well, okay. Well, Braden Smith was a 2nd-round pick that transitioned to guard or transitioned to tackle from guard, and he played really well.
I'm just messing with you. Keep going.
And so he's like, actually, I don't really send that many Colts things out. He's like, I send out a lot of San Francisco stuff because that's the offense we're going to run. And I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, I'm sure you probably don't send Laramie Tunsil Trent Williams clips. You just let Laramie Tunsil do what he does. But he's like, and guys hate when I send out clips of other guys because they're like, well, coach, why don't you just send out clips of us? And I was like, well, if you guys play better, I'll just put your clips up and we don't have to look at San Francisco clips. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't feel like I missed much, but yeah.
All right, screw you.
People are asking about Brevin Jordan. I don't have an opinion about Brevin Jordan.
Invisible Man had his helmet today, but I couldn't tell you he did anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, does anyone even want Brevin Jordan? Like,
he's not good. Like he's not good at football. Like I'm like it's not there. Like so, he was. I know people liked the idea of Brevin Jordan because he was supposed to be one of the top 2 or 3 tight ends in that draft class, and he slipped all the way to the 5th round. Well, now we know why he slipped to the 5th round because he's not good.
Can't block, can't catch, can't stay healthy. It's
it's a dangerous triumvirate to be a part of.
I think he's going to be on he can still be on the practice squad, right?
I wouldn't waste a practice squad spot on him.
So just an outright peace out.
Yeah, see you later.
Okay.
See you later. You only get like I think you only get 9 or 7 guys who've played more than a year on the practice squad. I wouldn't use that on Brevin Jordan. Wouldn't use a practice squad spot on him. Get Kurt Hinish to give a practice squad spot to.
Damn, dude.
That's why national people who give opinions on the Texans are kind of out of touch. They're not there. I was reading an athletic article. It was like players ready to break out for a team. and the player ready to break out for the Texans was Kurt Hinish. If they keep 4 defensive tackles, he's not making the roster.
I think they might keep 5.
If they keep 5, he makes it, and he's the 5th defensive
keep 5. He's there. I think it's pretty clear. JJ says he's offended that I don't care about the big fellas. I care about the big fellas.
He doesn't care about the big fellas coach.
I don't want to hear the coach. I don't want to do this offensive line business at all. The O-line, I was going to say something about the O-line.
I do wonder with this offensive line. If when you're in an actual game and you actually can use Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary like you use them in a game, I do wonder if this offensive line can sort of impose their will on a couple of people and help the pass blocking. Because if you can grade them, if you can bulldoze them a little bit,
that's fair.
It becomes a little bit. I actually think we kind of
rush. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, like you can't. I understand you got pads on and it's a different color jersey and all that. It's not like a game when you're running the football in practice. So I do wonder from like a rhythm, play calling, and execution standpoint, if running the football in a game will make this offensive line better because they can get into a rhythm, they can get some early hits. I mean, it's not gonna just magically make Kenyon Green a better pass blocker, okay? But it could help the offensive line and make everything else with that offense more effective if they can just run the football.
Yeah, I just don't have a grasp of how well they're going to run the football based on
running,
practice. But I think Pierce and Singletary are straight.
Oh yeah, for sure. I said somebody asked me about Kareem Hunt the other day.
I didn't need to see them.
Yeah, I mean, run Daria Gumbawale and Mike Boone out there and let them fight to the death for the 3rd running back spot.
Do you think they keep 4 running backs? Is that a given? Like, if we're talking about numbers, because is keeping Dare, especially when Beck's on kickoff and all that, is keeping Dare? Because I think I keep hearing, like, McLean came on the other day, and McLean does it. McLean is clueless sometimes when it comes to rosters. I'm not trying to be a jackass, but sometimes he's just clueless. You laughing at? You know it's true. I love John. Talked to him today. But like he keeps saying Dare is good for like the 3rd or 4th because he plays special teams, and I'm like, so does Beck. Like you have a tight end. I mean, he's on your first team kick, and kickoff doesn't matter. Like at this point, they're kicking it out of the end zone anyways, and they're fair catching. So is he that great?
Gone are the days where you can be a special teams ace and make this team. Jack Easterby and Bill O'Brien. Jack Easterby and Bill O'Brien are no longer running this organization.
And that's what I mean. Like, is keeping Dare worth letting Hinish go?
Like that. See, that's you get into a roster crunch here. Okay, like if you keep 5 defensive tackles, where do you take that spot from? If you keep 6 linebackers, where do you take that spot from? If you keep 5 safeties or 6 corners, like what part of the team loses a spot, and how likely is it that you lose that player to somebody else? Like, because if Kurt Hinish, I know there's 1,000 people. I know there's 1,000 people that get cut. Kurt Hinish is going to be on someone else's 53-man roster.
Are we 100% certain? Are we 100% certain that Roy Lopez has beat out Hinish?
100% no.
Yeah, because I agree with you. Like if it was 4, I would think it would be Roy Lopez. But when I watch Kurt Hinish freaking play in games, he balls. Like in a reserve role, I think they'll both have a similar role. I know Lopez, like when they ran that 3-3-5, was kind of on the outside. But like, would you bet your life on Lopez over Hinish? I think. Let me put it this way. When they're deciding, I feel like it's at least like an intriguing discussion in the room.
Yes. Oh yeah. It's if you walked in there and if Nick Caserio walked in and told the defensive room, you get 4 defensive tackles. Well, we know who 3 of them are. And then they're going to have to sit there and decide who that 4th guy is between. Like, it's a conversation. The first couple of days of practice, it didn't look like it was going to be a conversation because Roy played pretty
Yeah.
well. But Heinisch has fought his way into it being a conversation if you only keep 4. I'd keep 5 because that's a position where guys get beat up.
I would too.
And especially if you keep those 5 and use a practice squad spot on, say, another defensive tackle, so then you've kind of got 5, maybe 6 guys that you can trust for that defensive tackle situation. And, the rotation, I don't know that we're going to see like those like hockey line changes that Lovie Smith did sometimes where he just runs in 4 brand new defensive linemen. I don't think we're going to see a ton of that.
No.
But, if somebody's banged up for a couple weeks and, you want to practice squad elevate Khalil Davis just so you have a big nasty as a backup, be my guest.
And you got, I think they keep 5. I really, really do. But it's more so like, are we sure that if they don't, that, it's just light years, Heinisch and Lopez?
I'd be really interested in talking to probably like a couple of general managers, but certainly Caserio about this. Like, is there a certain number that you've allotted for offense and defense? And when you want to keep an extra, say, running back, does that cost you an extra tight end, or can an extra running back cost you a defensive lineman? Like how much overlap is there? Or do you feel like you have to stay within a box of this many offensive players, this many defensive players, and then you just try to make a decision there? Because we say 53, it's actually not a 53-man roster. There's 50 spots because there's 3 specialists. So you're trying to be one of the 50 guys, and you're really trying not to be 49 or 50 because if a good free agent's available, you're getting cut and they're bringing that guy in.
Yeah. And that's where the Heinisch, but man, like I look at like at tight end, like I could see like them being a waiver wire. I don't know how many guys like at D lineman they would see and be like, all right, that's better than what Heinisch brings. He brings something to the damn table, man. Like when he's out there and he's not being out there too much, he's not overexposed. Like I would say like the back end of the tight end depth, even maybe the back end of the running back depth, linebacker depth for sure. Like you could maybe find someone to be like the reserve linebacker, but I don't think that there's like some sort of like, okay, Kurt Heinisch, yeah, we can replace that. Like some reason he just seems to fit well.
Man, and look, you and I have operated pretty much from the start of camp that they're keeping 6 wide receivers. So with that, like that's another.
You believe that, right?
I still believe that. Yes. I still believe that because those final 3 spots in like the wide receiver pecking order, any given day, it's a different guy that's the last guy, and it's a different guy that's the 4th guy. Like the top 3 have been pretty consistent. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Robert Woods. The next 3 guys have sort of interchanged with each other on who number 4, number 5, number 6 is on any given day.
Someone asks if Jackie Chin, the offensive lineman from Minnesota they brought in, is any good.
I mean, I saw him on the field, which is more than I can say for some players on this roster. But I would not anticipate that he's going to make the team. Your offensive linemen are the 5 expected starters. Your swing tackle right now is Deculus, which is scary to think about. Your backup guards are Dieter and Patterson. And so at that point, there's 8 offensive linemen. So, and then when Howard's back, when Titus Howard's back, and that's another thing. Titus may be ready week 2, so you carry him week 1 without being able to play him. You think he's going to be ready week 1?
He's moving well, man.
He
was working full speed on. I mean, I know it's not his leg or ankle, so it shouldn't shock you. But I mean, when the cast was 2 days old, he was in there getting like a full physical workout in.
Because he had,
So
he had the surgery a week ago Monday, ish, and then he was in like a brace. Like when you see somebody that's got like their. Like they put the screws in your head, like when you have a neck injury. That's kind of what he had on his hand for a couple of days. Now he's in the cast, which is it covers these two fingers, which makes me think he broke this part of his hand. Dr. Cody over here. And I mean, it seems like he's moving pretty quick. I mean, to go from the stabilizer to the cast and then be doing stuff, he might be moving pretty quick. It's only 34 days from the injury, it's only 34 days from the surgery to the game.
It's 5 weeks.
Yeah.
That's 4 to 6. 5. Boom.
Yeah.
Active. Boom.
I mean, he doesn't need any work and practice that week.
Nah. I mean, to be better than what's in front of him. I mean, I actually think Fant's okay.
Fant's okay. He got roughed up on a rep today and allowed a sack.
That happens.
But there's some decent pass rushers over there in Miami, like Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb. You know, they were bringing a little bit of heat. The Dolphins were at different times. Fant's fine as if he's got to play 1 week or he's the guy until Titus is healthy. Like, he's fine, and then he drops down to your swing tackle, and then you can get rid of Deculus, I guess.
Deculus. Cody, appreciate you coming through. I'm gonna get you out of here on this. I'm on the pregnancy diet right now. I am going to Taco Bell after this. And I want to play one of our favorite games to play. When I was at my fattest.
Oh, boy.
Taco Bell. So go ahead. Take yourself back to when you were at your fattest. I feel like I've witnessed this. Welcome to Taco Bell. May I take your order?
All right. Could I get 2 cheesy gordita crunches, no lettuce, 2 soft tacos, no lettuce, 2 crunchy tacos, no lettuce, a Crunch Wrap Supreme, no lettuce, no tomatoes. I'll take a large Dr. Pepper. And could I get a Chipotle chicken melt and the crispy dessert things?
Yes, sir. Would you like any hot, fire, or mild sauce with this?
Can I get mild and hot sauce, please?
All right. Your total is $24.33. Please drive through.
Yeah. I mean, that I've absolutely spent. A Mexican pizza. If I didn't get the Crunch Wrap, I'd get a Mexican pizza. And then if there's ever a Frito Burrito opportunity, I jump in on that. You know what I don't like at Taco Bell? I don't like
Taco Bell though is when you go through, they always got that left menu where you want to throw some ish in.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like the for a while it was under $1. Now everything's at least $1. But I don't like their cheese sauce.
I do.
Like their liquid cheese is not my favorite.
They do something with that sour cream too, bro. They do something with that sour cream.
You know what gives me some good vibes about Taco Bell is I see a tremendous amount of Taco Bell employees on TikTok making crazy Taco Bell stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost always looks very clean in there, which is a big thumbs up for me.
Yeah, this one I'm going to is clean, bro.
Getting the behind the scenes of a fast food restaurant's not always fun, but this one, they always look very clean.
Let the people know where to go to find you. A lot of them already know. Let them know.
I'm on YouTube as well. You just search my name and you'll be able to find the channel. And then Houston Football, my website, where I do all my writing. We have the free subscription that you can get. There will be free content on the website always.
It's pretty good.
And then for the low cost, is $7 a month. We got all the paid features that you'll get. So you'll get all the writing as well as some other bonuses. We're going to start putting together audio features of the YouTube as well as audio exclusive stuff through the website as well. So we would certainly appreciate y'all checking out Houston Football, www.houfootball.com.
Yeah, he still says www. I know it bothers a lot of people. I'm with you, man.
Do you want to hear the nerdy reason why I do that?
Go ahead, man.
Well, one, it stands out because nobody says www anymore. Two, the way the whole site, URL business. If you just go to HOUfootball.com, it doesn't pull up.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for being my eyes on the field.
I'm dropping all sorts of offensive line coach, Taco Bell, and URL knowledge on you, as well as hand doctor stuff.
By the way, you had a nice little back and forth with Dameon Pierce today.
Be loud, be safe, be present, and don't eat too many chili dogs at the concession stand.
That's his advice for the fans. You also had a nice little back and forth about the Bible.
Yeah.
Book. So
well, I also didn't clearly speak when I asked him a question, and he misunderstood my question. I asked him, how much do you expect to play on Saturday? And I think he heard, do you want to play on Saturday?
Okay.
I was like, dog it.
Well, it happens.
Yeah, the Bible quote was funny. That one made me laugh.
That's a good one. Appreciate you for coming through, Stoots. Thank you very much. The man.
Appreciate you for having me. Thanks, everybody.
The legend, the great Cody Stoots. Do me a favor. Be sure to go back and like the video. Does me a lot of favors. I appreciate y'all for riding along. The number one place to get the pulse of what's going on with the Texans. Again, the biggest takeaways, what we expected to be good have been good so far, especially in the 2 joint practices, and there's still some concerns. Game in 2 days, and we'll continue to give it to you daily here in the locker room. Thank you very much. Be safe. I'm going to go pig out later.
For days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up. We number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize, every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.